Hi, everyone. Dane Shoemaker here. This is the Shoemaker Films podcast. I'm joined with Vince Quinn at the SBX Production studio here. Vince, how you doing today?
I'm wonderful, Dane. I'm wonderful. It's good to see you.
Awesome. Yeah, so I came across you maybe about a year ago, started following you guys, Philly Content Club primarily. Want to dive into that a little bit today. Just the content you guys are putting out. It's kind of a monthly networking group and podcast, kind of curious to see what it is. But, I just felt like we had a lot of overlap in what our businesses do, right? As well as just general, digital marketing. And so kind of just interested today to learn a little bit more about what you guys do. And, we can kind of do some back and forth on, digital marketing landscape, podcasting, social media. There's so much to talk about. So,
Well, yeah, and when you reached out, I was excited for that exact same reason, right? Because I think as content creators, for people who have these technical skills with all of these different mediums, audio, video, photography, social, website, whatever it is, everybody you talk to seems to have dabbled in everything, right? It's very rare that you meet somebody who's just no, I've only done websites and that's the only thing I've ever done. People are no, I had a YouTube channel for a year or two, and it's just everybody's so connected and has these skill sets, and it's figuring out the best way to unleash that in a way that works for you and a business that you're trying to build or whatever it might be. It's a really complicated game. It's a hard thing to navigate. So to talk to you running video production and everything is really cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited to learn about you hopefully as much as you're excited to learn about me.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think you touched on small businesses and even just creators, solopreneurs, right? They're trying to navigate this digital landscape, right? The social media platforms are constantly changing. Digital marketing marketing in general is changing, right? And trying to navigate that is hard. And you got to try different things and see what sticks and what your audience, you got to kind of go where your audience is, right? So, in a couple minutes, 2-3 minutes, tell me what SBX Productions does. I'm going to go from there.
Yeah, front-to-end podcast production company. So we help people, first off, the biggest thing when you're trying to start a show is why, right? What do you want to get out of it? I think a lot of people look at podcasting and just go oh, this is fun and it's just talking. We could totally do this. We'll figure it out. We're so much fun at parties. You know what I mean? So it's okay, how's it going to help your business? Are you building a brand? What do you want to actually see as a real result of doing a podcast? So we help people figure that out. Okay. And then along the way, it's really the full support system, right? Because it's not just the concept up front of what is this show called? What are the things you're talking about? Who are you talking to with these different issues? It's how do you record this thing? How do you do that consistently? Release it in a way that makes sense. Get the sound bites together. All those different things, we're very big on making the lift as much as possible on our side so that it does feel like it's just talking for the people doing the show.
Sure, yeah.
Because so many people get into it. I saw a stat that it was 47% of shows don't make it past 3 episodes.
Okay.
And I was like, damn.
Not surprising though, really.
No, it's not. But I think so many people, it shows how easy it is for people to get fooled that the production work is easy. They just see the talking. So it's okay, how can we make it that simple so that people who do get engaged with it, we can make that lift manageable? And that's what we're built on.
Yeah. To your point too, it's just building a habit too of making it a priority. Hey, every week I want an episode going out, just building that into your everyday operation as a business owner is hard enough, right? So
yeah, people have a hard time managing their clock, right?
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's impossible. I came from radio. I didn't have a clock. I was working 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. Other times I was working 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Other times we were working 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. It was all over the place, and that could change within a week. So once I became an entrepreneur, it was holy shit, I'm just gonna work all of these. Can I curse on this, by the way? It's your show.
I think so. Yeah,
okay.
I think we're okay.
Great.
Yeah,
we've done it. We can always bleep it. But so we did that, and my clock was crazy when I first got started with all this stuff. So I'm okay, well, I'm a small business owner and I'm running around like an idiot. I need to take care of my clock. How can we do this in a way for other people to make sure that they are protecting their clock, at least when it comes to this content, and making sure that no, we meet at this day, at this time, we're doing the show. That's what's going to happen, and we're doing this for as long as we need to, whether it's 10 weeks for a season or every week, because that's how they want to do the show. But this is the day, this is the time, and we're going to be committed to that.
Yeah. That's awesome. And how long have you been? How long has XBX been around?
So really 3 years has been the majority of it. Me and Taylor have been working together for about 4. But yeah, it's been about 3 years for SBX. And over that time, I mean, we've worked with a lot of different people. Like the way that we started, it was a lot of people who were trying to build an entertainment show, right? Like they want to be the next big sports talk host, or they've got all these great stories from the bar. Let me tell you, the lives that I've lived with the ladies. You know what I mean? Like it was that kind of stuff. And it's a hard thing to maintain in a studio because you don't have a brand, you don't have a budget, like you don't have these things around you to make the vehicle really worthwhile for a production company to manage it. So even if these things got started, we'd put in all this work to just make sure that the show could like exist with a trailer and an episode and a feed. And then by the time we did that, they're like, actually, we can't do this anymore. We're out. Like, and it'd be like, this is a disaster. So yeah, over 3 years, we've really moved from that to now we're doing a lot of like entrepreneurial work. And now we're really shifting focus as well to partner with marketing agencies and try to build like bigger relationships, bigger businesses that understand the full ecosystem around a podcast.
Yep. Were you always focused on podcast production?
Mostly, but you know, it was like the size of that pie has changed significantly, right?
Right.
I think before it was like we're 60% podcast, but also we're a social media management company, and we're we can do all the clips, and we'll travel to location, and we'll film all these things for you, and photography, and all this other stuff, website building, and then at some point I'm on Squarespace, and I'm like, what the hell am I doing here? Like, what is this for me? You know, it's like, can I build a site that's functional? Yes. Is it great? No. And if they're getting it on a budget, it's like, okay, I'm getting cash in my pocket. But yeah, at what cost, right? Because I think this is the trap that kind of everybody falls into is you can do the work and you can get the cash and you can make that project go. But then it's like on the big picture, okay, are you going to have 500 websites that you manage? Because you got to have certain software for that. You've got to have a way to host all of those different sites. You've got to have somebody that's available to deal with all the website problems. You're going to have to upgrade your certain systems in building and everything. So it's like, okay, is that what we want to do? And with the kinds of people that we've been working with that are helping us out, part-time, contractors, whatever, like, are they built for that, or do we have to find those people? And the more we looked around, it was like, I come from radio. Taylor's an audio engineer. He's been around podcasting for a very long time. That's my business partner, by the way. We haven't mentioned Taylor yet, but he's here. He's recording this. So between us, it was like, okay, well, we're audio people. The people we're working around are audio people. Like, we're storytellers. And as much as video works into that nowadays, because when we first started, video was just becoming part of podcasting.
Right.
That was just becoming the standard. So we started to work that in. But we just realized at our core, we are podcast people. That is what we do best. And if we don't lean into that, we're making a mistake. We got to differentiate, and that's what we've got to do it.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, every business, guru, book that you read, it says you got to niche down, right? You got to focus on doing one thing really well, and then as your cup fills, you can, go out from there. But you really got to, build, focus on one thing.
Yeah,
is what every entrepreneur, needs to do. In our own business, it's hard because I'm in the same predicament, right? Where you have clients coming to you say, hey, I need a website, I need email marketing. I think what we do really well is kind of building out that content calendar for clients. So we do, we go out and we shoot once a month with our clients. We'll do a whole production day or a half day, something like that. And then we're really good at like repurposing some of that content for emails. We're doing email marketing now too, in addition to social and the video, like YouTube and stuff. So that seems to be working well because it's kind of like that whole pipeline you can kind of build out. It kind of starts with like some copywriting that might turn into a social post that turns into an email. And then maybe the things that outperform will turn into like a long form YouTube video or something like that. So at some point we need to maybe narrow down or, rebrand or something like that. But I think, it's business is an interesting thing.
That's so interesting you say that because like as we've met, I know you as Shoemaker Films and you've got the shirt and the logo is killer, by the way. I love the logo.
This logo is actually stock graphic from Canva.
Really?
Like the bear.
It looks so clean.
I spent a couple grand on a logo designer. I ended up hating it.
Yeah.
It was like a bear. It was a similar bear, but I was like, you know what? I ended up just going with the stock image on Canva. So At some point, I'm gonna have to copyright it or get someone to like tweak it so I can like trademark it or whatever. But we'll see. We'll see.
That's so funny. Okay, well, it looks clean, but it's so funny that you say all that because it sounds like you're a full service digital marketing agency.
Basically,
You've got that whole pipeline of things, and that makes so much sense, right? Because at the very least, you've got those different services, but you've connected it all together, and it is a meaningful thing, right? Like for us, the podcast, it's not connected to those other parts in the way that we were doing it and the systems we would have had to build out to make it work. It wasn't what we wanted to do. So it was like, okay, because part of it was we've had to do all of that work, and like I had to sell podcasts because we thought it was just like business margins and models and all that stuff. But to have that kind of setup makes so much sense. It's very clean. So that's great that you have that all together, because then it's just different ways to get people into that same funnel, because the end product is the same.
More or less, yeah. But yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think again, business is a journey that, we might evolve in a year or two, or, maybe decide that we want to focus just on video again. But, that seems to be working right now. So
yeah, and that's one of the things with podcasting that's so difficult, because what we realized is, and this has been one of our frustrations over the last year or two, I'd say, is that when we're recording, let's say we do a show with somebody, it's a great show, right? Or for somebody who's getting started, it's a really solid show, and you can see the potential, and it fits their business, and they're getting the right kinds of guests and all that stuff. But then once we build this thing and we edit it and it's all ready to go and it's posted, then it's like, here's the clips, go promote this thing, make it a really part of your brand and seize this thing. And the baton just gets dropped because they don't have that other presence on the other side, right? Like, they are a solo business owner. They know the value of podcasts, but when they don't have the newsletter right, their website stinks, their socials are totally inconsistent, they don't have engagement. We're giving them this thing, and then it just falls flat because it's not brought anywhere, and that's the problem. The podcast is a valuable tool, but it has to be brought to people in a way that brings you back that business, that engagement, So when they don't seize it, it becomes a very frustrating thing. And that marketing element, podcast is part of that, but it's not the end all be all. It's kind of a next step of it, if you will.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Do you work with? So tell me about the type of clients that you work with. Are they in greater Philadelphia area? I think you mentioned you have some national clients. So tell me about how that works.
So it started in Philly naturally, right? That's how everything's began for us. It's just people we knew, word of mouth and whatever. For me, I had this little period where when I was first getting started with podcasting, I was still in radio. So I would mention on the air and tweets and whatever that I was doing podcast production. So things like that got the word out a little bit. It didn't lead to much, but it did a little bit. And then from there, it was okay, well, it's word of mouth, the connections that we make. It's it's funny how this stuff works, and the beauty of podcasting being universal is our bookkeeper moved to Florida. And she was in Jersey. She moved to Florida. She knew some people in Florida that were clients of hers that could use the service. Now we've got some clients in Florida. It's just how it's moved. So it's starting to expand a little bit. And the beauty of podcasting is that it is such a communicative medium.
Yeah.
It's a networking platform for people. So when they're bringing all of their guests on, and those guests can be from anywhere, then it means that we have the chance to land a client that's anywhere. So that flexibility, this digital age allowing us to run high quality productions anywhere in the country from here is a real benefit. So that's one of the good things about it. We've been able to very slowly start to creep into different places.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. How do you actually execute that, remotely? Just, you don't have to get too technical. We can go down that road, but
yeah,
just kind of curious about that. Yeah.
Well, the basic thing is, first off, we want to make sure the equipment's good, right? If you can record from home, but if you're doing it on AirPods for a podcast, I will kill you as a client. I will kill you. I will hunt you down. I'm a very nice guy, but I will hunt you down in your sleep. So it's one of those things where, we want to make sure what is a setup that is sustainable, that is affordable, because we don't want people to pay for a ungodly amount of equipment, right?
Yeah, right.
We want to make sure the show works. So first, low quality equipment, quality but low budget, right? And Taylor's great at managing that thread, so he can nail that stuff. And then we help people set it up. We're very hands-on in that way. And from there, it's that guiding element, right? We have an engineer to sit in to manage the recording, because God forbid something goes wrong, right? Your guest comes on, they go, actually, I can't hear you. Let me leave and come back. And
sure.
their headphone settings settings are wrong. You know what I mean? So it's like to have somebody in there that's a professional that can say, okay, well, let's try this and let's try that. Okay, did you do this or that? Like, to solve those problems makes it so much easier. It saves people a lot of embarrassment that is easy to have, because, like, God forbid you record an episode with somebody and you know what? The levels are terrible.
Yeah.
So by the time you've done it, you're like, I can't even air this. And I set this expectation with this person, and I've wasted their time.
Yep.
And I don't even want to tell them, you know? So it's like, it can be a really tough spot. So that's why that engineering element, that technical element with the equipment is so vital for us, because it makes it feel like they're getting a quality experience and they're presenting themselves in a very professional way.
Okay.
And being able to do that it's a lot about confidence. It's a brand building thing. So if you can't provide that, if they don't feel confident in this version of themselves, you're making a mistake. And we decided that was really important. And frankly, that's where most people want to be. You know, it's nice to have the studio space. Like, we get the FaceTime and have this conversation. It's very cool. Yep. But a lot of people just want to be home. You know, it's easier. So, hey, how do we go to the market and adapt to them? And that's how we went about doing it.
Yeah. 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 I think for most of our clients today, we're going out. So we have 2 clients that we produce their podcast for on site. Actually, I was just there yesterday. It's an all-day thing. We do 4 or 5 episodes. You know, it's a lot of work, right? But we're setting up cameras, mics, mic stands, like the whole 9, right? Even light, you know. So we're doing this podcast, our podcast, for our own business. So it's a way to network. It's a way to develop business, right? Create our own marketing. There's so many benefits to podcasting, right? I don't have to tell you that, right?
Yeah.
But we're starting to do, you know, a little bit more like remote also, because I think there is value, like you said, in having someone in the comfort of their own home where they're comfortable. You can have a podcast now with anyone across the world, right? So there's just so many benefits to doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, the flexibility is great. Time zones, whatever it is, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of the modern age with all of this stuff, right? Like, tech has gotten so good and it's so affordable. I mean, just quality things, like when you watch a video on somebody's phone and you see the quality of it, it's like, oh my God, you know? Like what your run-of-the-mill LinkedIn post looks like these days would have been tens of thousands of dollars to get executed, I don't know, 20 years ago, 15 years ago. Like, you'd be space age. Like, it'd be crazy what you're doing. So yeah, seeing that kind of tech evolve and being able to do this in a way for people that it's affordable, because that was one of the biggest problems too, right? It's like, we are working with a lot of entrepreneurs, so they're solopreneurs, or maybe they have a marketing person or something, but like, they don't have a big team, they don't have a big budget, and podcasts are an ongoing thing to some degree, right? So it's okay, how do we do this in a way that they can afford it, and the equipment, they can afford it, or the studio isn't so expensive to build that we can afford it, you know, and we don't have to jack up the price to record in studio an insane amount. So it's such a delicate dance, but things have evolved that, I mean, obviously podcasting wasn't a thing 20 years ago, really. Like, it was, but I mean, thinking the way tech's evolved, like, we wouldn't exist if it wasn't so flexible and dynamic and affordable. There's just innovation all the time.
Yeah, I mean, podcasts weren't around more than 20 years ago, and I would even argue that, like, in the last 2 to 3 years, like, it wasn't feasible for a business owner to start a podcast, or it would be a lot more expensive, a lot more time consuming. But now, like you said, the tools, the software, you know, everything that you can do, it's more feasible, right?
Yeah, so it's unbelievable. There's so many places that do it. I mean, just for a podcast, like hosting services that exist, there's so many recording platforms that exist. Like, there's StreamYard, and I think a lot of people start there. But I mean, on the low end, you have Zoom and Google Meet. You could do it on those if you really need to. Riverside, like and we hear about new ones all the time. I mean, I feel like every 2 months or so, we're like, oh, there's another streaming platform. Okay, are they any different? Are they any better? No, not yet. But who knows? Maybe 2 years from now, they're the best one that takes over the market. Like, it's just super competitive because everybody wants to be in the game.
What do you guys use?
So we use Riverside.
Okay, yeah.
Love it. Swear by it. Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. Whether you work with us or not, use Riverside. Like, for the love of God. It's
we love it. Yeah, we use it too.
Right? You just can't beat that back up, like the lag recording. You know, like
it records locally and then you upload it later. Yeah, it's
magic.
Yeah,
absolute magic. It's so good.
Yeah, I wish more people did that. Like, I wish Zoom or Google Meet actually had that option. It would be a game changer, I think, you know.
Well, and they would own the market if they did that, you know, because everybody does want to go there because that's what they already use for work. Like, the number of people that I see that are professionals and even have some level of media savvy who don't bother to look at those other platforms are just like, I'm going to record on Zoom.
Right.
And it looks terrible like the quality's not good.
Yeah,
but it's easy and it's there and everybody's used to it. So they do. That's just what they do.
Yeah. Yep. Cool. So do you guys handle like scheduling for clients and their guests? Like, how does that, like, what does a pre-production look like for a client?
Yeah, we certainly can, right? We give that as an option to people as much as they want it because it's a pain, right? People reschedule or trying to get all these people. Let's say for our regular clients, typically what we do is we run a season, right? So we're going to do 10 episodes. It's going to be very thoughtful in terms of doing all of those. And then we'll take a break, we'll reevaluate, and we'll do another season.
Okay.
So with that, like, let's say, okay, you've got 10 different guests. You're going to record one of our clients, for example, Thursdays, 9 o'clock. So you've now got to put that out to 10 different people, and you've got to get them all to commit to a Thursday at 9 o'clock. Yeah. So doing that is a pain, right? It can take a lot of time. People are going to want to reschedule once you get closer. So then what are the other days that you can do? And whatever. And you have to coordinate with our producers and make sure we have somebody that's available to engineer it and all those things. So like making sure that is all set and clean. We do want to do the scheduling for people because it's a lot of work and we have experience in it. So we know ways to make that process simple and easy, and we track everything really well on the back end. So we do try to do that because it's the same thing we talked about earlier, right? Like time management is such a big thing. And if you're allowing a guest cancellation or something to completely blow you up, or the inability to take the time to fill a slot in your schedule to throw you off, like it's just not worth it. You need to be really aggressive about those things, as small as they seem. So we're very particular about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Topics, like, are you constantly feeding? Like, if you have, I guess some of your clients have guests, right? Do some of your clients, are they just solo shows? Like, how does that work? Like research, topic development?
So one of the biggest things I would say is, first off, people don't take enough of a leap in doing a show by themselves.
Okay.
Like, I think people are too afraid to speak on their own. And I get it, because like it's hard, right? You got to develop your voice. And to do that in a public format is a scary thing to do. But you have to at least have it in your back pocket, because think about this, right? Like, you're a business owner in any field. I don't care what it is. You bring all these different guests on your field because you're networking and whatever, you're lead prospecting, whatever it might be. But that's your platform. And every time you're doing that show, you're allowing other people to dominate your platform. Where's your voice? You know what I mean? Like, you can have all these guests, and that's interesting and it's relevant to the space. But like, if I want to buy from you, give me you. You know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to encourage people of like, no, if a guest cancels, have ideas for things to do on your own. Have your own solo topics. Like, work that in, because the reps that you get and the value that's going to bring you, because there's times where, like, I always listen back to episodes that I do, right? If I'm a guest on something, I listen back. And when I do that, I'll hear certain lines I say about the business and the way that we operate, and I'll be like, oh, that's really good. I got to hold on to that. I got to use that again.
Right.
You know? But if I'm not doing those kinds of things and building it all the time, like, I'm hurting myself as a public speaker, a representative of the company, describing myself when people are at networking meetings and going, wait, what do you do? You know, like, the more reps of that, the better. So I think doing that is vital. And I do encourage people to do episodes on their own, or at least practice it on their own, even if they're not publishing it. Like, do 15 minutes on your own and see what it sounds like.
Right.
But then that next level is the topics and everything else. We don't do it for everybody. Like, what we do is upfront, because not everybody has a massive budget, right? So upfront, what we'll do is we'll have a strategy session, and we do a pilot program where the idea is we'll be pretty involved up front. Like, we'll talk about, hey, let's have a meeting or two. We're going to talk about what your business is, what you want to accomplish, who do you want to talk to, all those things I talked about at the very beginning. From there, we develop the concept for the show. We do one episode, make sure we all like it, the production quality, the way it looks and feels, like the exact flow of it is really where we all want it to be, and we think it's repeatable in a long-term form. So once we agree on that, then, you know, if people have the budget, we can be involved as executive producers and consultants and like help them build out those different topics and the nuances of hosting to get the most out of a guest or get the most out of their solo episode. Like, we can really dig into that. Not everybody can. And the alternative to that is we'll give them that foundation. They do the season. We support them in all those other ways, scheduling, editing, recording, all of that.
Yeah.
And then once it hits the back end of the season, we can give them a report and I'll review their show and I'll give them notes, and it'll just be an overview of things rather than more of a micro analysis. And by giving them that, it's our way of saying, hey, we care about you. We're checking in. We want you to grow. They get to, continue to build on this investment that they've made in their business. And it just works for everybody, right? Like, they're dedicated. They want it to be better. We want to help them. So that's what we do.
Yeah, that's so important. I mean, you have to have that analysis, and I like how you have that set up, like a pilot, and then you do a season, right?
Yeah.
Is it mostly, do you batch content at all with clients, or is it mostly like weekly? How does that work?
Big time batching, yeah. Especially for these seasons, right? Like, our goal with a lot of the shows that we work with, and what we've been spending a lot of time really in the past, 8 months, has been building out our process with all of the people that we have working with us, to the point where we have an entire season. Like, we have a show that we launched recently, and by the time that first episode was put out into the public, we had every single episode recorded, edited, uploaded. It was all set to go.
Yeah.
And the only thing that we've been working on as the show has been rolling out is the social media posts. But the next time we got another show that's through the flow, I want those ready to go too. We just want it to be a set it and forget it kind of thing, because then that way we focused on the production, it's all done. We focused on the socials, it's all done, and they just have to find the other ways to, engage with people about it, talk about the show, or just continue putting the energy that they normally do into their social media channel around the show, right? So we can have all those posts there, but hey, if they got other things that they're showcasing or they're promoting or whatever, like, go do that, We don't want it to take over their lives. So that's why, we try to batch everything, because God forbid, same thing, right? It's like, oh, we forgot to schedule somebody, or they canceled. We don't have an episode this week. Like, that is the last thing I want to hear. I honestly, I just won't tolerate it, right? Like, like, I was in radio. It was always like, you're live, you're doing it. Like, there's no, like, you're in the air and you got to make it happen. So I refuse to say, like, oh, well, we're just going to miss this week.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do we do this as much as possible to make it as easy as possible? And that's where we've settled on it. Yeah.
Nice. Your career in broadcast, did you go to school for that? Like, tell me a little bit about some background.
I mean, technically, I didn't learn a damn thing in school. I really didn't. I went to Fordham, which is supposed to be a great broadcasting school, communications, TV, and radio. That is my graduation degree. Yeah. I spent like 12 years in radio. So everything would tell you that school taught me how to do radio. That is not the case at all. So what happened was, I mean, for me, I got out of school, and as soon as I got out, I was like, okay, I got to do something to show that I've got, like, skills, right? Like, I was a slacker in school. I never cared. Like, I'm in a philosophy class or a history class. I'm like, I'm not doing this. This isn't my life. Yeah. I'm just not motivated. And I always knew once I got out, I would, like, unleash that thing that I have in me, whatever that energy is. Yep. So I got out. I started a sports blog. I got a couple of friends of mine from college and high school together. We were covering all the Philly sports stuff. I built the website. I did the logos. I was blogging. I was running the podcast. Like, I was the main host on the show.
Nice.
Editing it. I was doing everything.
What year was that? When
this was 2012.
Okay. Yeah, nice.
So I was deep in it, just doing everything. And from there, I got a call eventually, like, I don't know, like 5-6 months later, to work at WIP as a member of the promotions department. So I was the guy that would go out to events, and I was like, hey, spin the wheel with a shirt, So I was giving out, like...
It's a thankless job, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, it is.
Pretty fun for 20-something, right?
Well, yeah, being out and around, like, it was really cool, and it was kind of funny because my parent, like, I was always a sports nut, like, always a massive sports nut, and especially football. But my parents weren't,
Okay.
Like, my dad coached my teams and stuff as a kid, but he wasn't, like, painting his face at the Phillies game and yelling and screaming. Like, he was never like that.
Right.
I was always putting the games on. So sports radio, I knew about it, but I wasn't, like, in it.
Okay.
And then suddenly I'm in it, and I'm like, I didn't know this existed, really. You know what I mean? Like, to the degree that it did. I was always watching ESPN and Comcast Sportsnet. I wasn't listening to WIP. But now I'm in there, and I'm at the events, and I'm meeting the people, and I know them from TV, and I'm like, oh, I can, like, hang out at a Phillies game. Like, I can be in an Eagles tailgate. And, like, this environment is always where I've wanted to be and been happy. So let me explore this. And after about a year, at that point, I was just taking every shift they would give me, just putting cash in my pocket, trying to build a good reputation for myself. I learned that people from promotions had found their way into producing.
Okay.
And I was like,
Nice.
Oh, I didn't know you could do that. So then I started to finish my promotion shifts, and I would get home, sometimes like 8 hours, 12 hours, whatever it was, and like exhausting work, physical work. And you have to entertain people more or less. So like I'd get home from those shifts or back to the station, then I would just sit in the studio and learn how to be a producer.
Yeah.
I would just ask guys questions with a notebook, and they were willing to answer them for me, which was great. So from there, I kind of applied the philosophy. When they needed somebody, I ended up getting a fill-in shift as a producer. Then I started taking all the producer shifts and climbing my way up the ladder there while I was in promotions. Like, it was this whole constantly evolving thing. I mean, I had a point where with all the different roles that I was doing within the business, I think I legitimately had 8 different titles that I could claim in WIP that I was doing simultaneously.
Nice.
It was nuts. But ultimately, I realized I wanted to be a host. I thought I could be really good at it. I got my first crack at 25, which was crazy.
Yeah.
Like they told me I couldn't say my age on the air until I was 40. And as a 25-year-old, that was a shock. So it was like, oh, my God. So, yeah, I got my first crack really young because I was hosting a podcast and doing all this stuff along the side. So I was getting reps for a couple of years. I'd been a producer. I knew the flow of the shows.
Yeah.
So they needed someone in an emergency spot. I got the shift, didn't look back. Same thing, working my way up in the rotation. At the height of it, I had a nationally syndicated show. I was on 225 stations with CBS Sports Radio. So it was like, and I did that at 29.
Yeah.
It was crazy. But that was the thing. I got out of school. I found the opportunity. It was something that actually engaged me, that I thought I could be good at. And I put in everything I possibly could into it, and I climbed the ladder.
Amazing. Yeah. I mean, you definitely have like a voice for radio, I got to say. Like you have the gift of gab, Yeah, well, you know that already, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I get it. It really does come from both of my parents. My dad is very sing-songy when he speaks. He's just got that flow to him. And so I really picked that up from him. And then my mom is just one of those people that in a conversation, she's just always got, whenever there's that natural lull, she's got the question, right? Yeah. She's got the next thing of just like, well, how's your sister doing? It's like she just always keeps it moving. So between the two of them, I put all of that together, and like being a slacker in school and all that, I just hung out with people all the time. I wasn't doing homework. I wasn't working hard. I was goofing off.
Yeah.
So I spent so much time socially and was around these conversational people that I just got to unlock everything in radio. It was really a perfect fit.
Amazing. Yeah. And then at what point did you make the shift to starting a business?
Yeah, so pandemic changed everything.
Okay.
So what happened was once that hit, I had been the national overnight guy for a little bit, maybe like a year, something like that. And I thought I was doing really well. Like all the reviews I got were good. Talking to my boss, he was really happy with everything that I was doing. Producers were very critical, but supportive of what I was doing. So everything felt right. And then it got to a point where when the pandemic hit, they had to make decisions about who was hosting shows and who wasn't. And I lost my show.
Okay.
Wow. And they gave it to another guy who was in the building. And, he was older than me. He'd been around longer than me. So they were playing favorites. It was a politics game, and I lost. And at that point, it was funny because I was a shift employee. Like, I wasn't, you know what I mean? I wasn't salaried, but they decided to give my shifts to another guy. So it was like, well, what am I going to do? They're like, well, I don't know. Good luck, basically. So I kept working at WIP. I was still there at the time. I was doing both, back and forth between Philly and New York. And once I got once that happened, like, I had to reevaluate everything. I'm like, I had doubts about radio anyway in the long term because I didn't think it was a great business. I didn't think everything I'd seen, layoffs all the time in like the 10 years I'd been in the business, is just constantly people losing their jobs. You're talking about salaries not going up or being very stagnated. The pay in general wasn't great. It was deceptively bad because you got to watch all these games. You got to prepare for the show. You got to read the news all the time. So like your hourly was not your hourly. So everything about it felt off, but I was thinking, all right, I can either continue to be in this and die in it, basically trying to push for a full-time job and that security, or I can start looking at ways to get out of here. And as I had, been forced to really contemplate my future and it being let go temporarily, I was like, okay, well, I have this chance to work at a podcast studio, and let me see what this is about.
Okay.
And, they had people who wanted to do the sports shows. I had credibility in that area, and people knew me because they listened to WIP, being local guys that wanted to do a sports show.
Yeah.
So I had a little bit of weight to bring to the table. And that was my first peek into seeing the business. And the more I thought about it and spent time in it, I thought I'd rather be here. It's a better schedule. I can build some, like, I'm in full control of what this is, more or less. Like, I have say in this operation. I can express my ideas. I don't have dumb limitations that the radio offers, like cursing, for example.
Sure.
It's just like stupid guardrails. So it's like, I have freedom here. I can be creative. I think I can really help these people. And this is where everybody's going. Like, it's not going into radio anymore. All those people are leaving.
Right.
And I didn't think they were cultivating talent well. So I thought that was my opportunity to jump. And over the next year or so, I started to transition myself out of radio entirely.
Okay. Nice. And so you were working then full time for this other podcast studio? Is that
more or less? Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I was pretty much. I started to very quickly be full time at the studio.
Okay.
And as I was doing that, my weekend, it was a weekend overnight show at CBS. They did bring me back eventually once things calmed down a little bit, and there was more shifts and money to go around. Then I got my show back for a while, and I took it because what else am I going to do? I'm not just going to say no to a national show when I don't have a great, better option. The business was too new.
Yep.
And that one in particular, that studio that me and Taylor were at before, it fell apart. As soon as we left, it fell apart. It wasn't well built. So, so I was doing that for a little bit and trying to figure it out. But I very quickly started to do all my time during the day was there, and then if I had shifts at WIP or CBS, I would only take them at night or overnight so that I could be back at the studio during the day, just trying to solve problems and build this thing from the ground up.
Yeah, nice. And so when did you go out on your own then to build this?
Yeah, so that was probably after a year or so of being at the previous studio. It was just one of those things where, one, the relationship wasn't good. Like, with the guy who had founded that studio, wasn't a good relationship. Didn't like how he was doing business. It wasn't available as much as I would have liked. And considering I was putting all my time into it, and it was a startup business. We needed investments in equipment and all that. Our clientele was not a good client base. I was putting my personal money into making that thing go.
Right.
Right. So it's like, if I'm really making these investments, I got to believe in this. And I didn't fully believe that things were equitable. And I didn't believe in kind of the direction that they saw for it, that he saw for it. So I figured, you know what? We got to build something else. We got to get out of here. And that's what we did.
Nice. Did you have some early, what was the early client list like? I mean,
yeah.
Did you have a first client? What was that first win like?
Well, it's funny because when I came in, there were existing clients at that other studio, right? And then when I left, all of them came with me.
Oh, okay.
all of them came with us. So it
but
just
that was
wasn't
totally smooth. Didn't ruffle any feathers.
Oh no, ruffled feathers.
Yeah.
But it's just, do I have regrets about it? And absolutely not.
Yeah,
No regrets. I made the right decision. But and the fact that every client came with us is testament to that, right? So that's what it is. So yeah, we made that transition. And then it was trying to change what the focus of the business was. Then it was like, we want to build this big sports outlet and try to get a blog going with it and all these other things. And then it was like, no, we're a podcast production company. We're going to work with businesses and things and build those kinds of relationships and not try to build entertainment vehicles from scratch. Like, it's just not a good way to go.
Amazing. Yeah. And now you've built that up into what it is today. I mean, really impressive stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, we're trying, man. We've put a lot of thought into it, and credit to Taylor, because honestly, we've been through a lot together, and we spend pretty much all day, every day together. We just sit and we're constantly talking about things and pitching ideas and shaping stuff and ditching things, and every second of it is just, we're always refining and always looking for that next step, and how do we get bigger and how do we get better and build better connections and all those kinds of things. I mean, it is a relentless process for both of us. It hasn't been easy, but we've both been really rock solid committed to building this together, and it's been a joy.
Yeah.
It's been a joy. Yeah.
Is it just the two of you, or do you have other freelancers, contractors involved?
So we have a lot of other contractors, and they've been great. And the only reason that they're contractors, honestly, is we're growing business. We can't afford people to be part-time and full-time yet.
Yeah.
But and also there are a lot of production people and have other jobs, so we've been able to fit our stuff into their schedule. So it's been a win for everybody at this phase. But yeah, I mean, big picture, we want full-time people. We want a big team. We want to do all that stuff. But for now, we've been able to artfully get other people to support us, and by doing that, we've been able to explore these other opportunities with the business and find new relationships and all. We've been able to actually grow it because we've got the other people to help do the work.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, I mean, there's great people out there. We have hired tons of freelancers. I mean, I have an editor, I have a social media manager, a copywriter now we're bringing on. So
it's great.
Yeah. So excuse me. So let's talk about marketing, and maybe that's a good segue into Philly Content Club. Like,
Sure.
what do you guys do to attract clients? What do you do from a marketing perspective?
Yeah. You know what? A lot of our marketing, honestly, has been networking.
Yeah.
That is the big, just being out and about and having as many conversations as we possibly can, shaking hands. Like, it's anything that we can do. I've had a stretch for a little bit where I've been actively getting myself booked on podcasts, right? So there's podcast match platforms, Podmatch, Matchmaker. I've been going on those and just obsessively.
Have you found those to be pretty successful?
Yeah.
I was looking at that the other day, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I developed a whole system for it, you know, of getting these shows. I built a custom GPT to like help me do the pitches. It was
nice.
like I was diehard about it because it was effective marketing, right?
Yeah.
Like, I knew what my audience was, which is entrepreneurs who have podcasts or want to start a podcast. So let me get on as many entrepreneurial focused podcasts as I possibly can.
Makes sense.
Right?
Yeah.
So that was the goal. So I started to build up a lot of those. That's been a project recently. Otherwise, joining different groups, chambers of commerce, and just different networking groups, whether they're free or paid. I mean, the paid ones, you tend to get better other people in the room, you know, understand the prospect more, are more ready to spend money for marketing and understand the value of it.
Yeah.
So it's not like, oh, I think a podcast is great. Oh, it's not $20. Like, I can't. You know what I mean? So it's like we've been getting better leads and trying to level up. So leveling up the network has been just as important a goal because it's going to get us a better client base.
Yeah.
So we put a ton of it into marketing. And then, yeah, occasionally we get people just because they're a guest on the show, anything that we manage, and they're like, oh, this is nice. Like, this is cool, you know? So so that helps too. And that's why, in part, we try to treat it like a white glove VIP sort of service. So those are a lot of things. And then, like you said, Philly Content Club, right? It's been a way to share information, our business experience. Because, I mean, when we got in the door, I had no business experience. I'd never been to business school. I was a radio host in the middle of the night. Like, I didn't do anything with anybody. So all of this has been self-taught along the way. And that's a lot of the stuff that we've talked about too, me and Taylor. It's just like, how do we run this business? What is our model? How are we tracking this and that, and learning the finance game and all those different things? So to be able to share that information, because it's been something that's been very helpful to us. It's why we're still in business.
Yeah.
And it's something that everybody wants to know about. It's like, hey, let's share these things. We get to meet like-minded people who totally have that same kind of passion and energy and commitment. And it's been great. So, yeah, it's a great way to connect with people, show that we know what we're talking about, and you just never know. You know, our philosophy is more, if you put good things out there, good things will return, and we feel that.
Yeah. So what's like the elevator pitch for how would you describe Philly Content Club to somebody?
Taylor?
Yeah.
No. So
I know it's a podcast, it's a club, you know, it's in the Pyramid Club in Philly. Like, tell me, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's more an educational space for entrepreneurs.
Okay.
I think is the most simple way to put it. And
Awesome.
It's been a lot of business principles and the things around that. So a lot of that core stuff of time management and strategy and just sort of more or less like self-awareness.
Yeah.
It's a lot of those kinds of things. And then on the other side, it is content-related stuff about the value of podcasting, or ways to manage a social media account, or how to get a good soundbite. Like, those are the kinds of things that we're working on as well, and we've talked about at different events that we've run. Like, I did one of those events it was all about AI, and I just showed people, I'm like, this is ChatGPT. This is a prompt. These are how those prompts work. Like, here's how AI art works. So, like, being able to just very matter-of-factly show people stuff that they either want to get involved with and haven't had the time for, or are too nervous to jump into on their own. They need that, you know, it's kind of like your first swim lesson, right? You want somebody in the pool, and you got your floaty, and they're, like, guiding you around. So to be able to give them that introduction is what we've done.
Yeah.
And to be able to do that at the Pyramid Club, they've been a great partner to us. They're full of entrepreneurs who are hungry for that kind of information. And it's been a ride. It's been a ride. Yeah.
So you guys meet once a month, and there's typically a topic that you're focused on. Probably guests come in, right?
Yeah, we've done a lot of that, and we're going to be fine-tuning things, because for the summer we slowed down all those events, and we've been trying to figure out, okay, like doing an event every month is exhausting, and trying to do it with the amount of production that I want to do it, because I can't help myself. I've got a perfectionist bone in my body, right? And so with that, it's like when I'm doing something, it's like, what is the best version of this? And so like I kind of drive myself crazy trying to make something great, but at some point, am I burning myself out? Because we have a business to run, and as much as this is marketing, like it's got to be a right balance. So now what we're doing is we're thinking more about like DIY stuff, educating people on like, hey, here's the basics of how to edit your own social media clips. You know what I mean? And like if they just need that to get started, great. And then if it turns out once they do that, they've been doing it for a little while and it works and it gets the traction, they're ready for professional help. We're there. We're the people that taught them. They'll be appreciative of that. We have a studio that offers that service. Great. Like, let's do it together now. So we're going to be doing that. And then we're talking about a lot of workshop ideas. Okay. So things that would be, you know, like an actual ticketed event, but people walk away with like very substantial results from that, tangible things they can take with them. That is the goal as well. So we're still fine-tuning what that next phase is, but that's what we're putting a lot of time into. Yeah.
I feel like there's such a like juxtaposition. I can't even say that word. Like such a contrast of like what we do, creating digital content, right? But then bringing people in person, because that's what people really want to do, right? Like they want to be in person, networking. And ironically, I'm in the same boat. A lot of the business that we get is from referrals, in-person networking. You know, I'm part of Mainline Chamber of Commerce, very active with them. Delaware County is on the radar. I just need to write the check, basically. But Philly Ag Club we're active in. Newtown Square Business Association. You know, I'm on the board there. So I just feel like being, you know, networking in person is so important. And like people have a desire to be together, you know, at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
But having the flexibility of doing things remote, you know, consuming, you know, social media content, podcasts, like it's a great world we're in right now. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it is. It's very connective. Everybody's looking for groups to be in, and having that continuity I think is really hard, because it's like there's so many groups, right? When I was first like, all right, I'm going to commit to networking. There's a million groups, and it's like, all right, well, I want to check all these out, but there's a million of them. So how much time can you commit? And it's like, okay, well, what we realized is obviously you can join a couple of groups, but you need to go to those regularly. And if you can't make that regular commitment, you're not going to see the value. But you do see it because you show up and then you recognize people when you come in the door and they recognize you. And when something comes up, you think of them and you're going to send somebody their way, or you give them a call because you need their help. And it's just like, it does become a sense of community, even if those people aren't like your best friends, you know, but there are times where you meet people, especially as an entrepreneurial mindset, like there's a spirit to it. There's a mentality to it. And you've got problems that you want to talk about, and to have people that you trust in a similar space that get what this grind is, to be able to like emotionally support each other. You do meet some of those people as well. And that's honestly been maybe just as big a value, if anything, to be able to just spitball with other people who get it. It's a real relief to be like, running this thing is super exhausting and we've got all these ideas and what do you think of this and that? And to get that kind of expertise from people that you respect and have built their own thing as well, it's like, it's very cool. So finding those groups, meeting those people, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. I've also, I don't know if you do any like other coaching programs or online stuff. I just recently joined The Future. Do you know Chris Doe and that?
I know Chris Doe. I don't know this group.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. You know, it's a monthly fee. It's an investment, but it's like twice a month, kind of networking with other creatives, and it's pretty broad. It's not just video. It's designers, graphic designers, you know, editors, you know, all kinds of, you know, any creative industry, marketers, things like that. And it's really about building your business skills within a creative industry, right? So definitely very valuable stuff.
Yeah, it's everything. I mean, and that's the thing, right? It's all tied together. Like you need everybody. In whatever realm of content you're in, more or less, you need everybody, because it all ties together and people inevitably want it. So it's just you know, who's a good photographer, who's a good newsletter person, who does this or that. Like for it's just everybody's asking about it, and it's good to be like, okay, well, if somebody comes to us and let's say, you know, for, I don't know, a certain kind of, they want a brand video, right?
Yeah.
To be able to be like, well, I totally get this, and we used to do that, but like, we're not doing that anymore, but here's somebody who's really good at it, we can send them your way. And it's like,
exactly.
Here you go, Dane, here's somebody who needs a brand video. Like, it's cool to have those kinds of relationships with people, because it does essentially strengthen your business in having that partnership.
Yep. And I can see, you know, hey, we have podcast clients locally, but maybe you guys are a better fit for someone who's remote, or, you know, I just feel like there's some overlap there at some point in the future. So, yep. So I think, you know, why don't we do you want to do a little, is there anything else you want to talk about? Like, I mean, anything you haven't shared or?
No, I'm getting married in a month and a half.
Okay,
so,
nice.
I can talk about weddings all day. Yeah,
I bet you can. Yeah.
Let's
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Let's talk about mother-son songs. That's stumping me right now.
Yeah.
No, so no, I really don't have anything. I feel like we've covered so much ground.
Yeah.
So if you got lightning round, man, I'm totally
right,
ready to go.
Let's try it out. So,
all right.
Yeah, you mentioned you built a GPT. So talk to me about AI in content creation. Where do you see it going in the future, impacting the industry?
Yeah. I think a lot of it is junk. You need to curate it in a very real way, and it takes work, especially for these different chat bots, to get them to do things that you want. It's a lot of refine. Like, it just doesn't stop. But if you're in a pinch and you just need some filler logo or some filler whatever to be an article graphic on LinkedIn, AI solves that problem. Like, it is very convenient at times. So if it's not like a major investment, it does fill the need, but it's kind of junk food is really where I see it. It's like it's a $1 bag of hers at the counter. So I do get it. I think it's incredibly valuable when you use it properly. God knows where it's going to go. But yeah, I mean, it's a useful tool. You just got to figure out what those very specific things are, because there's so many different versions of it now, and it's easy to get lost in.
Yeah.
So without getting sucked into it, I think is also equally a struggle, because everybody wants to be in that game.
Yeah. I feel like I tell myself often, hey, this is like any technology. It's going to take jobs. It's going to make our lives easier in a way, right? And then I see this shit that's like computer, AI generated video, and someone's talking, and it's like, wow, that's wild, right? I do think like some stock video sites are probably going to be, a little worried, but I think, I feel like what we do is like capturing real people, capturing authentic stories, journalism in a way. Like, I feel like that's always going to be relevant. Documentary type work. Like, there's going to be a time and a place for AI, stock video, stuff like that. But I don't know. I'm optimistic on it, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it's craftsmanship, right?
Yeah.
I think the people that are like true masters of an art form, you're always going to stick around because you get it. And it's just the AI and whatever tools are out there are just ways to make your job easier. And it's up to you to like quality control it or set the parameters in a way that it generates something that is useful. So like, yeah, having those abilities, because like for us, we're in podcasting, and there's AI editors out there, things that can mess with audio and audio quality. There's things that can just outright, I don't know if I don't know if the tool's fully live yet, but there's stuff that you can pay for where it'll just chop everything. It'll be like speaker 1, speaker 2, speaker 3.
Right.
And so it's like that's out there already. But is it doing it in a way that feels right for the flow of that show? Artistically, how is it? And you're always going to need that eye. I think there's always value in it if you want to make something great. So yeah, I mean, we've talked about AI a lot in technology in general in that way.
Yeah.
For us, we're just confident in ourselves as like tastemakers, essentially. So it's not something that's ever going to be a problem for us. It's always going to be a benefit.
Yeah. What's your favorite social media platform? I mean, is there one that you're on a lot?
None. I'm on Reddit, and I hate it because Reddit has actually become mostly bots. I swear, like everything I read, it's just like, some of it is real posting from actual people, but there's other stuff where you read it, and I've been on GPT enough that I know when it's a GPT post, right? Something in the language is just a certain way where it's like, no, this story written this way is not right, or these comments don't, like, something about it is not right. And so it's, I mean, so I'm on Reddit a lot out of habit. I don't like it. I'm almost never on Instagram. If you DM me, it's going to take me a week to get back to you. That includes my fiance. She loves that. What else? Yeah, I was on Twitter. My profile is a ghost at this point. So I'm almost completely removed from social media. The only thing that I use it for is quality of work. Like, I know what it is to promote a business, So Instagram is massively valuable. So from that standpoint, like, Instagram's the way to go. I think for most people, it's pretty neutral. It can be businessy. It can be very casual. Your friends are on there. Like, it's a good place to start. LinkedIn's got it. It's valuable, but it's also really stale. Like, everybody's posting in the same way these days. So yeah, I mean, a lot of social media I don't really like. That's not a lightning round answer, but that's how I feel.
Well, I think that's fair. And yeah, I mean, you're probably better off understanding that it is a tool for growing your business, right? But if you're spending time scrolling and doing stuff, you can get lost pretty quick.
It's miserable. Yeah. I hate it. Yeah. I hate it.
So what about like if I was a small business owner looking at how to promote my business, what are some maybe 1, 2, 3 things I would want to focus on first?
Start on Instagram and be consistent with it, right? Like just have an idea of what your message is, get in the habit of posting all the time. If that's 3 days a week, reels, stories, pictures, whatever it might be, just figure out what is comfortable for you and do something, right? And believe in trial and error. For social media posts, I think it's a little easier to do that, but it gives you an opportunity to find your voice and see how people respond to it, find other people in your community. Like dedicating time to following people that are in the right niche and right community is just as valuable as posting, right? Because you can find somebody and see what they do and go, oh, that's really great. And like you can shoot them a message and connect or comment and you build that relationship. So focus on engagement as much as you're posting. And from there, it's just, trust that it's going to get better and be actively critical when you do it. Don't beat yourself up, but just think of ways of how can I do this better the next time? And if you keep doing that, you're inevitably going to get infinitely better than you were when you started.
Yeah. So on your entrepreneurial journey, starting a business, there's headaches every single day, right? I mean, what advice would you have to someone starting a business or, a business owner, any kind of entrepreneurial advice that you might have?
So the key is to refuse to die. Honestly, I was thinking about this last night. One of the things for us is me and Taylor have been through a lot. I mean, we've seen this business through the different kinds of people and partnerships and leaving the other studio and everything. We've seen a lot of change. Everything I saw on radio, I saw a lot of change. And you have to be absolutely relentless in the idea that you're going to make it. Yeah. And if you're going to quit easily, if you see certain challenges and you are likely to fold, you don't even fight to try to solve those things and build workarounds and all that kind of stuff. That is what most of this is to start, right? It is, how do I DIY this thing? How do I get this thing? And even if it's not the way it's totally intended to be used, how can I use it in a way that's going to be helpful for me right now based on what my skill set is, what my time is, what kind of money I've got, whatever it might be. Like, you have to be so resourceful. You have to always be thinking of answers. You don't have time to wallow in your own shit. Like, you got to figure out, how am I going to build this thing? And if you don't have that mental toughness to be the weight of everything, then this isn't for you, and that's okay. Like, it's okay to try it. If you have that curiosity, go try it, live your dream, like go build that thing. Yeah. But I mean, it fails for so many people, or they hit a certain level and kind of bottom out because they are not relentless in the pursuit of greatness or that vision, right? Like, I want passive income. I want to be able to take calls from a beach. I want to be more or less retired by the time I'm 50, 55. Like, I want to take projects as I see it. Like, I've got a vision. I've got a dream. I've got a goal. I give nights and weekends and whatever thinking about those things. I've done it for a long time, and I don't get to anywhere close to this if I'm not absolutely relentless in that belief that I can be that kind of successful. And without it, I wouldn't be anywhere. I mean, I've God knows where I'd be, honestly. Like, it's kind of a miracle that I'm here. Yeah. So I try to appreciate that. But I mean, you have to be emotionally willing to take such a beating and be relentless in fighting to get through it. I think it is the number one thing.
Yeah, entrepreneurship is really, I don't know who said it, it's a game of attrition, right? It's like, if you can just outlast like your competition, you're 99, you're in the top 1% or something, right?
Yeah.
So it's a game of survival, but yeah, that's amazing. Last question. What are just some general predictions for our industry, marketing, podcasting? What do you see happening in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting because it is such a time of change, right? Like, all this technology has come up. It's so easy to do things on your own. It's easier than it's ever been with AI and how this stuff goes. Because the video generation and stuff, right? It is really good. So to be able to say, oh, well, I'm going to take 50 pictures of myself and I'm going to load it into some sort of bot, and then I can get every old newsletter that I've ever written, and it will just AI print me doing those videos. Like, that's coming probably in the next year or two. Like, right? It's probably in development now. Yeah. So thinking about that kind of stuff and where it's going to go, I mean, the ability to, it's almost like, in Power Rangers when they're all in the middle of the Megazord, and it's just like these little people inside this giant robot. Like, you're going to be one little person that can feel like this giant robot, because all of your abilities with automation, generation, everything else is going to be so easy and so streamlinable that it's almost going to be you just like hit the content button and everything happens. So it's only a matter of time for people to build up that backlog that they'll be able to do it.
Right.
So I think that's pretty much around the corner. And otherwise, I mean, yeah, it's just going to be, there's going to be so much filler junk to wade through. I think because you talk about, it's like the rule of 7, right? So people need to see your thing 7 times before they buy or they even register you. And now it's going to be the law of like 45.
Right.
Because, I mean, everybody's posting. And it's not just like these business accounts and the volume beyond that and the brands that people are trying to build, but like dogs have an Instagram account, like random inanimate objects. There's just like so many things that you're competing with, and the volume is so intense that at some point it's so crowded, and there might be a pivot. I mean, if anything, maybe it's a real world pivot where it's like people are back to, it's a heavier focus on events and experiences and things like that because, the digital space is so crowded, and people like me are kind of fed up of living in it. Like looking at Reddit, the way it drives me nuts. Like I'd rather just be somewhere and see it and talk to people. Mm-hmm. So that's I think the other avenue of where it goes.
Yep. Awesome. Well, I feel like this was like a really good conversation. I really enjoyed this. Anything else you want to share? Or
Eagles preseason game tonight. Big predictions? No. I got
be a whole another show. Yeah. Oh,
I'm retired from that life. No, this was great, man. It was great to talk with you. I appreciate you giving me the time. It's been great to meet you, have you here at the studio. It's been really fun.
Yeah, amazing. Where can people learn more about SBX, Philly Content Club? What do you?
So if you want to sign up for the newsletter, phillycontentclub.com. Otherwise, for anything with us, SBXProductions.com. So SBX like sandbox, SBXProductions.com.
Got it.
And people can set up a free meeting. So if they're curious about learning more about how this could work for them and learn specifically about what we do, pilot programs, things like that, to just like do an episode and see, you can set up a free appointment and you just do it at the website.
Sounds good. Well, thanks, Vince.
Thank you, Dane.
Yeah. Thank you, Taylor.